now it's on. My name is Anthony Bresnikan. I'm a film and television writer for Vanity Fair. Favorite people to talk to, and we're going to share some of the stories of the creation of Ahsoka with you. Beginning with the composer for the series, Kevin Kiner. She plays Sabine Wren, Natasha Bordizzo. He's Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen. Ahsoka herself, Rosario Dawson. Show's creator, writer, director, also chief creative officer at Lucasfilm. I think he does some cooking, wears the hell out of a cowboy hat, loves wolves. Am I missing anything? Dave Filoni. This was not going to happen for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I didn't think it was a hoax, but I didn't think that there was any chance I was going to get this role. You know, I met with the casting director, Robin Gerland, amazing woman, and then I got to go in and meet George Lucas at the Skywalker Ranch, and again, I sort of went in with no concept that this would actually go my way. I was just really excited to go and meet George Lucas, and I was hoping to just get like a souvenir from the ranch or something. And the meeting went well enough. He was really nice, and then I got to go back and audition with Natalie, and then a few days later I got one of the best phone calls of my life.
I go back to those early experiences you two had. Is this show Ahsoka is so much about mentors and passing on what you've learned, and Star Wars itself is so much about generations, fathers and sons, fathers and daughters in the new Acolyte series, and the mothers often die. But I'm sure
it's fitting with Disney.
Yeah, it's a thing of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good family film.
But this show is about mentors and what you take, what you pass on.
Snips.
Yep.
You see what I mean? Always wise, it's there.
You said something to me in an interview, Dave, that I wanted to start out with. At a certain point after George had sold the company, and you were talking to him, and you brought up some question about the Force, and he was giving you his answer on it, and then he said, "But you know this, and that was a meaningful thing to hear." Can you tell that in a better way?
Yeah, I don't know if I believe him. He said that. I just don't think that way. Like, because I worked with him, I saw firsthand what it was like, the mind that made all this. You know, when you're sitting there and, he creates dialogue for Anakin and Clone Wars, you're like, oh yeah, I see it all. And you see the DNA of the fun and the adventure and the type of character voice he gives all the way through American Graffiti, like it's all there. And so it was very nice of him, and I appreciate the nod of confidence, but I think you're also always learning, and I'm definitely always learning. I think one of the things that worked for he and I was I wanted to listen, and I wanted to learn how to attempt to get this right. And it's a challenge. Star Wars is a particular mix of fun and adventure and tension and drama, and it's not an easy balance to get. And it's so George, if you know him. I mean, Hayden knows. It's so specific to him. And so we endeavor to try. But every now and then I go and I try to get back to the source and glean a little bit of what's important. That's why I like working out at the ranch still when I can. We did post for Ahsoka out at the Skywalker Ranch, and I was in the same office that I was in when I first started at Lucasfilm, where we created Ahsoka. And so to have that moment where I was there, in that building with this character now in live action with a lot of the same people that work on the ranch that had seen that evolution of myself and the character and the team, I think was meaningful that this is ongoing. So you try to imbue these things with a special nature like that.
Program of young Anakin pre-Revenge of the Sith, who tells her, "I'm teaching you this so you'll know what to do when I'm not there." And Rosario, can you talk to us about that stage in Ahsoka's life and the questions she has and the confidence that she gets from this episode where she meets the specter of her friend and her teacher?
I was really looking forward to this episode to work with Hayden and to see this moment between Ahsoka and Anakin and this challenge. I think that she has been in a really stoic place for a very long time and has cut off a lot of herself for fear. I think of the possibilities, the things that she can't necessarily control, and she's tried to control as much as she can. And I think that's one of the things that I love so much about Star Wars, is that there is no defining moment that just says, okay, you're good and you're bad, and then that's it. It's a choice every single day, and you're challenged every single day. And what I love so much about this episode and this moment between the two of them, not just in that first moment of snips where you get to kind of connect to the animation now becoming live action so deeply, but also this lightness that I think that she hasn't allowed herself to experience for a really long time. And this opportunity for her to be a little bit more open to the reality that Anakin was so much more than what he became. And that we all have that opportunity, and to really kind of appreciate even for herself the choices that she's made to kind of get herself to that point. And I love that, when he challenges her to be like, is that all that I am? As she really kind of can't help but continue to focus on the dark.
She's resisting.
She's resisted for so long. Like, it's just something that she's clearly so haunted by. And I think what's so powerful and what you get to see with Ariana and, in the younger, in the Clone Wars scene that we get to see you in that space, is how young she was in those situations, being this warrior. So you can understand how heavy this burden has been for so long. But to be able to get to this point where she gets to choose to live and evolve then at that point, because then she can have in Natasha's Sabine something to pass on that she can do fully and I think so beautifully, because there is that complexity and those nuances. It isn't just dark and light, it's all of the spectrum in between, and really accepting that and I think choosing to live that fully is just one of the most beautiful lessons. I think that is the thing I just so love about the storytelling, and why I think it's been so compelling for generations. It's because that's the kind of stuff, that's a value you want to pass on to folks, because even in your darkest days, that doesn't necessarily have to define you. And that you can choose to something else every single moment that you have. So that opportunity, seeing her potentially die and be in that space, like she can succumb, or she can rise to the challenge, and it's a different type of challenge. That still has inherent risk, but I think one that she can do more fully and with more light than I think that we've been able to see in her for a long time. And that is what gets me excited about this part of her journey, is being able to see her embrace her full self, including all the people in her life and their complexities, because he wasn't easy, Ahsoka wasn't easy, and Sabine ain't easy. So it's quite a journey, but it's a good bumpy ride.
So most people would know Sabine Wren from the Rebels series. You're playing her several years older and in live action, and Ahsoka. Tell us about getting inside Sabine's head at this stage. Did she have any corollaries for you to people in real life? I think, we don't live in a galaxy far, far away, but I think Star Wars is always very relatable, the characters who resonate. So how did you get inside of who Sabine was at this point in her life?
I find the relationship between any mentor and apprentice pretty fascinating in life. Even just as a young person as well, I feel like I seek out mentorship in life. So that dynamic in itself is really intriguing in all the different ways that can exist in the world. And then for Sabine, I think I love the fact that she does make so many mistakes and that she isn't the perfect model student and sometimes isn't deserving of patience or mentorship or trust, but she receives those things anyway from Ahsoka. And I think that says a lot because it isn't always the person who deserves it or who is perfect, who is ready, but she's on the journey anyway. This is her path anyway. And it's really powerful because of all of those imperfections to me. Yeah.
She's kind of not a natural. I think I
Yeah.
can applaud, so if you want to applaud that, go right ahead. Often with Star Wars, it's like, oh, they've got natural abilities, and they just sort of take to it like a fish to water, but she's sort of like an engine that won't turn over, isn't she?
Thanks, man.
No offense. In the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and I remember you telling me you were excited to play that side because you were so steeped in Anakin's personality and his world before his turn. But you got to indulge the dark side, and then you play this version of Anakin Skywalker in the world between worlds, who's, I think it's fair to say the audience isn't meant to know whether he's real or not, or whether that's in her head, or whether he's a Force ghost. Tell us about what your thoughts were as you played this character. What was this entity in your mind?
Yeah, I remember our first phone call or a Zoom call when you were first telling me about your vision for this, and you asked me if I knew what the world between worlds was, and I said, yeah, I do. And I was just instantly really excited because it just creatively opened us up a lot in terms of what we could do with the character. Anakin he goes through a lot in his life, and in the prequels, he's very emotional character. But in this is a post-life version of the character, and so he's aware of all of those things, but he's not emotionally beholden to those things either. So we could present just a slightly different slant on the character, and I was all game for that, and then getting to explore sort of Clone Wars era Anakin was something that I was also really excited about, because I remember even before you guys did the show, I remember George telling me about the Clone Wars when we were getting ready to do Revenge of the Sith, and just sort of filling me in on all the sort of backstory and how Anakin fought in the Clone Wars, and he was this great warrior and a decorated general, and I remember just thinking, like, wow, that sounds really cool. It'd be nice to see some of that.
Maybe we can make a movie out of that.
Yeah. And then I love what you guys did in the animated world, and so to get to sort of get our feet wet with that in live action was just a real privilege.
Did you feel the character is still growing in this afterlife, or is his story written?
I think that's for him.
Does life go on in the Force world, or does I know George
It's on an early flight today, and so it's unfair of you to ask me these questions. I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to bend away from your question. I'm dodging, but I'm going to give you a different answer, which is a little more film-centric. And it's like, so we can obsess about all of those things, and I like you to do that when I'm not there. And you think about the world between worlds and what does it mean for Anakin and her, and was he really there? But really, listen, where does that come from? I needed to have a grounding in something that I feel is cinematic, and so for me, the reason the episode's called Shadow Warrior is because it's a homage to Kagamusha. And in that film, the man pretending to be the Lord has a vision. There's a surrealistic sequence where he is confronted by this other character. And so for me, that was an opening cinematically. So that's an interesting story conceit, and I love the imagery that Kurosawa has created in that film, and I love the way that he was lighting that film. And so when I would talk to the DPs, we would talk a lot about other movies and things that we enjoyed, and that was one of the reference points. They get a list of films that they're supposed to watch before we do everything, so they can see these things. Some of them are better at getting through them than others. I can tell. And that would be on the list of films, because one of the things I learned about George working with him is he has seen everything. Like, he's so encyclopedic with his knowledge of film. It comes up in editorial all the time. We talk story through film and film experience, and so that was kind of imperative to have a touchstone. So, and it's another thing, if I say this here, maybe kids will go watch it, and that would be great, because it is a wonderful film, and Kurosawa it's just obviously phenomenal, and you should watch it.
This is something your dad did with you.
Oh gosh, well, I mean, look, I love the first day, I love the last day. I was sad when we were finished. I love making the show, I love working with these people, our entire team. I think they love the show. I think they love my dog more than me, because he's there with us on set every day. George once told me, if you can't have fun making Star Wars, what can I have fun doing? It's a part of it. It should be fun. It should be an adventure. You go through it all. I think production companies, film groups, we're always like a close-knit group, but we all loved it every day, I think, and just marveling at everything that each department would bring. Props, the lighting, the costumes, the makeup, everything. Everyone was like, when I got to Mandalorian on season 1, crew were asking me when we were going to do Ahsoka. There were people on that crew, season 1 of Mando, that wanted to see this character come to life. So after years, I mean, the only one who wasn't ready was me. I'd never done live action before, so I had to learn. And when we finally stepped up to do it, that team was so ready. Every single person on the team. I would say there's no one job that's more important than the others. We're all team working, collaborating. And I will say, and everybody feels it, from Shauna, but I also have to mention Ray Stevenson. Ray, his costume is one of the ones. His costume's out here, yeah. Ray, it was a joy to work with. The only thing he loved more than the show and being Balin was his family, and that just says his character's right there from the beginning. He wanted to be a part of this so badly. He brought so much to it. If you look at that costume, all the rocks on it, the green stones are things Ray would find on the weekend and come in and say, "Dave, can we put this on a costume?" I'm like, "Ray, knock yourself out." If that helps you. Next thing I know, Balin's got these big rings on and green stones everywhere, but I'm like, that must be it. Like, he was that guy, but he was for as menacing as he could be on screen, he was as gentle as possible off. I mean, there was nothing better than finding all the bad guys gathered on a stage somewhere, listening to their bad guy music, thinking that they're all bad guys, and they're all the nicest people. It's weird. And Ray was kind of the kingpin of that whole little group. And again, like, it's incredibly sad, but I'm so glad that he was a part of it. And that again, he wanted to wield that lightsaber. I just wish he got to see all of it. I think he'd have been really proud, and I'm so proud of him and his family, and that he got to be there. So yeah, it's bittersweet, but very special.
I know it's a lot of work, but the one thing I hear from all of you, and those of you who've been working on it for decades now, is that despite the hard work, there is an element of play. We're still playing Star Wars. So thank you for being here with us today. Let's hear it for Ahsoka. Please enjoy the reception afterwards.